Hello, friends. It's Chris Angel coming at you for another episode of Marketing for the Rest of Us. And today we're talking about haters and the odd and ironic turn of events where I'm actually chuckling and enjoying such haters. I have been running some ads lately on Facebook. And it's funny, too, because I feel like I've got my audiences... I'm using Facebook's lookalike audience on one of them. And the other one I felt like I dialed in pretty good. I'm learning where in this ad sequence I can actually improve or upgrade the audience I'm running my ads to. But here's the point. I never thought I would have liked comments of haters because I don't like rejection. I want to feel understood and seen. And so these comments on my ads from people I don't know, obviously, are causing me to chuckle because they're just so absurd. They're absurd. People are saying, it's just like, I don't know. It's funny to me because I know my heart in what I'm trying to do with my marketing. So, for example, one of my ads talks about vulnerability in marketing and the importance of vulnerability in marketing. And that ad is just a 2-minute clip, a video clip of me talking about this concept of vulnerability in marketing, right? I love Brene Brown's work on vulnerability, the power of vulnerability. And so this has that flavor to it, right? That we could create marketing that changes the world. That we as business people, when we broadcast a message to the world, it could be sent out in the world with love and goodwill. But in order for it to make a real impact, we, the broadcasters of it, would have to be vulnerable and transparent. And so with that being the heart of it, what's funny is that people are commenting and saying like, this is a total scam, which is funny because they don't even know, like, how is vulnerability a scam, first of all. Second of all, like, they haven't clicked through to my website that has my free course. They haven't taken my free course. So isn't that funny, right? Like, people just start speaking. I don't know. They're speaking from, obviously, ignorance. They're speaking from hurt, pain, cynicism, anger. There's all this stuff that comes out, and part of it's funny to me because people are so willing just to put their anger out on loudspeaker without actually considering context for something. So that's a funny statement on humanity, yes, on the condition of humanity. It's also funny to me that people are willing to be that outspoken. In some ways it feels like the underbelly of humanity. I've kind of been, maybe this is good for me, I've been living in a bubble, I guess, right? Where most of the people I choose to surround myself with are thoughtful creatures, right? They are empathetic. They are listeners. They're working on themselves and personal development. So they think deeply about the things of life. And I'm running ads out to millions of people that I don't know. And I'm getting to see like this other side of humanity I just haven't been exposed to, maybe ever. And so this is what makes it so funny. So anyway, here's, I heard years ago, this thing that sort of reminds me of this experience. I was taking a course from a company called Landmark Education, and it was one of their seminar programs. And actually, let's go back to the Landmark Forum or the Landmark Advanced course. And one of the exercises there is to write down your story. Right? So you basically go back into life and you figure out what story did you tell yourself as a kid that you've been living inside of ever since. My story back then was, I can't do it, right? Like something happened and I'm like, fine, I can't do it. And then I lived the rest of my life looking for ways that I can't do it. Okay. And in that exercise, the more you write the story, you just write the story over and over and over again. And as you write the story over and over again, it starts to sound funny. You're like, this is a silly story. This is a ridiculous story. Like, why am I torturing myself? Why would I continue to live in this story? This is so crazy. And, right, until I could read that story over and over and over again, that story had power over me. That story was very visceral, right? Because I believed that the story was true. But the more I wrote the story, the more I read the story, the more I could see it that it was just a story. And that I could actually create something different. Okay, now, I'm going to get back to the Landmark seminar in a minute, but let me go back to the ad scenario. So what's funny about the ad scenario is that as I in the very, very beginning, 5-6 years ago when I started Facebook ads, people would comment negatively. I felt really offended. I felt like, you don't see me, you don't get me. Like, how audacious and rude of you to jump onto my content and say something mean about my intent. You don't know my intent. Obviously, you don't know my intent. I'm so offended. And it was jarring. And I think, a lot of times before we ever step into that game of advertising and putting ourselves out there where we can be rejected, when we first get that first hater, that first troll, that first bad comment, it's jarring because we feel misunderstood. We feel like people are we get to experience the meanness of people and humanity. And for us, it doesn't make any sense. We can't cognitively make sense of it. It's like, this person doesn't know me. Why would they say this? So it feels like an attack and something unjust. And now that I've been doing it, especially recently with these ads that I'm running, I noticed that my content right now is more triggering because I'm talking about vulnerability and marketing, which for a lot of people, that already starts, I can get where they're at. That feels like a scam, like vulnerability and marketing. That doesn't make sense. What is this guy after? This guy smells funny. This guy must be whatever. But as I'm putting this controversial conversation out in the world, I'm getting more and more nasty comments. And like telling my story over and over and over again in the Landmark Advanced course, right? Where I started to see that my story was hilarious. Like the story that had controlled me most of my adult life started to just appear funny. Like when you say one word over and over again and pretty soon that word starts to sound funny, same thing with your story. It starts to sound funny. You're like, why am I suffering from this story that I created when I was a kid? Similarly, in the ad scenario then, why am I suffering these people who clearly don't know my intent? They haven't taken time to get to know me. They don't know. In fact, I can actually see that they are speaking out of ignorance, and I actually create some pity over here on my end for them, right? Because I'm like, how sad. Like, where else in their life are they not seeking to understand things and constantly cutting it off and killing things in their life out of this type of anger and cynicism? Pretty sad. But that's how I started to experience the ads lately. I'm like, this is hilarious. So now when the ad comes in, when a comment comes in on an ad I'm running, it's so funny to me because it's such a bizarre, it's like a Mad Libs, like you create some bizarre story with Mad Libs and people are creating bizarre comments in my ads. And I'm just like, that's hilarious. So I'll take you back to the story I was going to tell you then about the Landmark Forum or the Landmark Education Seminars. So one of the things, one of the distinctions that got created in a seminar once was that what they said was, you're a bowl of spaghetti, right? So it's it would be like living in a story when the story doesn't impact you, when you're not offended by the story, it's because you're clear about who you are. And if you're not clear about who you are, then when somebody attacks you, whether it's in a comment on a Facebook ad or somebody personally in your life, when somebody attacks you, you feel offended and wounded, and it's unjust, and you're emotionally attached to that experience. But when you can see it as a story and nothing more, it's like somebody saying to you, you're a bowl of spaghetti. Because if I said something to you like you literally are a bowl of spaghetti, you would be like, that makes no sense. Like that's a ridiculous statement. Of course I'm not a bowl of spaghetti. I'm a human being, right? I'm a human, not a bowl of spaghetti. It's like that. And at the time I got the concept of it, I'm like, oh yeah, I can see what the leader of this seminar is saying to the person, and I get it for them. But for me, I would still go out into my life and experience wounding from people saying mean things or judging me or whatever. Now that I'm starting to see over and over again these comments come in that are just nasty comments from ignorance, it's starting to be laughable. It's like they're saying I'm a bowl of spaghetti. They're like commenting on my ads. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. This is a scam. This is stupid. Like just all of this stuff, and you just go, it's so funny. Like this, like what you're saying right now is I'm a bowl of spaghetti, which makes no sense. And so their attack, their comments, their opinion, their whatever, just rolls right off, and I'm like, it's no big deal, right? And in fact, having that experience of it has allowed me now to relate more appropriately to what I actually want to do with the comments on my post. Like, I realize in this that now I am the keeper of the conversation. On my ads, on my post, there's comments, and some people are commenting out of authenticity and sincerity about questions they have or what this, how this matters for them. And those people are who I'm curating this content for. And so I get to be the keeper of the conversation of that ad. And as comments come in, negative comments come in, it's affecting the conversation. So I'm deleting those comments. In the past, I may have chosen to leave the comments because I didn't want them to be mad at me for deleting their comment. Or I might have felt like, well, maybe it's good to have the thing so other people can see it, can see that these people are ignorant. But the reality is, like, what I want for people in my content and in my ads, because my ads are just boosting my content, what I want for people who are my tribe to see is that I'm creating a safe place for them to step into the conversation of authentic marketing. And people's negative comments have no, whereas for me, it rolls off my back. For other people who are just stepping into this game, if they want to interact with my post, but they see other nasty people in the comments, that might affect their experience of playing in this conversation. So I get to be the keeper of this conversation. I don't know that I would have gotten to that perspective if I hadn't seen what, if I just hadn't found the humor in all of these nasty comments, right? It's just, so what do we say about all this? What do we do with all this? Well, here's the thing. What I noticed, what I've learned in this experience is that you have to, Gandhi used to say, what did Gandhi say? First they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, then you win. And whenever you're trying to create change in the world, whenever you're trying to create transformation in the world, there is that season where what will come is laughter or ridicule or judgment, right? And then it moves from laughing to fighting you, and then they use words or whatever they use to fight you with it. They start to condemn and judge and crucify you with all sorts of things, right? And your job in all of this is to stay the course, know who you are, but here's the thing: don't shrink back from the negative comments. Don't shrink from the risk. That's what I'm wanting to tell you. Like, that's the heart of this whole post, is that do not shrink from the risk. Don't shrink from the ridicule, because it's if you want to have any sort of impact in the world, it's going to come. If you play at any level bigger than yourself, outside of your comfort zone, then you're going to have to face the ridicule. But here's the good news. When you start to face it, what happens is when you know who you are, you start to see the silliness in humanity. When you see the underbelly of humanity, you go, oh yeah, I've seen that before. That doesn't scare me anymore. And I'm not threatened by it anymore, right? Because I know who I am and I know what I'm doing here. And that's what's available for you, right? When you step into your work and you put yourself out there and you experience the barrage enough, what happens is you start to reaffirm who you are. You know who you are, and you can keep showing up to your important work in the world, regardless of what people say. So that's it for today, gang. I want you to go out into the world and keep sharing your work. You have important work. Step into what's next for you, okay? If you'd like to learn how to step into your message more authentically, and feel like you know who you are in your marketing message, I have a free course for you. You can get it at groundswellmethod.com, groundswellmethod.com. It's 5 videos, just over 90 minutes, and that's a great place to start. So there you have it, gang. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I'll catch you tomorrow for another episode of Marketing for the Rest of Us.